All right, thank you, everybody. We'll call this meeting in order. Agenda item number 2, the meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV Cable Channel 2. Please note customers of the CenturyLink and Cox Communication can view the program in high definition on Channel 1002 and in standard definition on Channel 2. You can also watch this meeting live on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Go Vegas app. The Planning Commission meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, can be viewed on the internet at www.kclv.tv/live. The proceedings will be rebroadcasted on KCLV and the web the Saturday of the meeting at 10 a.m. and Monday at midnight and the following Tuesday at 6 p.m. Would everybody please stand for a Pledge of Allegiance? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Chair DeSalvio.
Present.
Vice Chair Schlattman.
Present.
Commissioner Cherry.
Present.
Commissioner Toussaint. Present. Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Chadha.
Present.
Commissioner Rogan.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. To the public, please, I call your attention to the information printed in your agenda concerning these actions and the appeals and review process, if appropriate. Please read this carefully, and if you have any questions, staff is available. Also, the second page of the agenda contains the rules of conduct. We appreciate you adhering to these rules so we can have a smooth meeting. Agenda item number 4 is public comment. During this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and please give your name for the record. The amount of discussion as well as the amount of time for a single speaker will be limited. Is any comments? Anybody wish to be heard under public comment? Seeing none, I'll close it here and open it up to Mr. Scott.
Mr. Chair, for the record, Brian Scott, Senior Assistant City Attorney. Just for one point of clarification, on a meeting a few months ago, I advised you that you're unable to hold an item at all for greater than 30 days based upon an ordinance. I misspoke on that ordinance. What I should have said is that you may table or hold an item for greater than 30 days if you desire to do that. But if you do that, the council may, at its discretion, pull that item from the hold and actually hear it by themselves, and you would no longer have any purview over the item. So tonight, if you have an item you'd like to hold for greater than 30 days, you're able to do that, but just know that you run the risk that the council can take that away from you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Moving on to agenda item number 5 for possible action to approve the final minutes of the Planning Commission meeting held on May 12, 2020. Commissioner Slotman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve May 12, 2020 Plan Commission hearing meeting minutes.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries. Moving on to item number 6 for possible action. Any items from the Planning Commission staff or the applicant wish to be stricken or held in abeyance to a further meeting may be brought forward and acted upon at this time. Any housekeeping items?
Mr. Chairman, we have some housekeeping items. The applicant wishes to obey item 64 to the July 14th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. This is the first abeyance request for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move to hold item 64 till the July 14, 2020 Planning Commission hearing meeting.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries. Moving on, consent items. Consent items are considered routine by the Planning Commission and may be enacted by one motion and one vote. However, any item that may be discussed if the commission members for the applicant so desires. At this time, I would entertain a motion for consent items 7 through 9.
Mr. Chairman, for item number 9, TMP 78668, staff would like to delete condition number 10.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Oops. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Stephanie Allen, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive, here on behalf of the applicant on item 9. We're happy to have that deletion and appreciate staff working with us.
Thank you, Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on items 1 through 9, I would move, I'm sorry, on items 7 through 9, I'd move to approve, noting the deletion of condition number 10 on item 9.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, those items are final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 7 days.
Thank you, Ms. Summerfield. Okay, moving on to one motion, one vote. The following items that may be considered in one motion and one vote, they are considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items. All public hearing and non-public hearing will be opened at one time. Any person representing an applicant or a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission not in agreement with the conditions and the standards contained for the application recommended by staff should request to have the item from this part of the agenda pulled. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 10, VAR 78625 for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow no streetscape improvements along Sheetland Road where such are required on the northwest corner of Charleston Boulevard and Sheetland Road, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Item 11, I'm reading to the record, but we're going to pull that and have that heard. SUP 78646 for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 15,600 square foot beer, wine cooler off-sale establishment with the use of the waiver to allow a 334-foot distance separation requirement where 400 feet is required at the 1,000 North Rancho Drive. Ward 5, staff recommends approval. Item number 12, for possible, SUP 78647 for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed tattoo parlor / body piercing studio use at 1520 South Main Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 13, SUP 78651 for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 2,940 square foot beer, wine cooler off-sale establishment with use at 835 North Martin Luther King Boulevard. Ward 5, staff recommends approval. Item number 14, SUP 78654, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 240,199 square foot liquor establishment Tavern Use with a waiver to allow a 0-foot distance separation from an existing liquor establishment tavern, a 589-foot distance separation from a church / house of worship, and a 717-foot distance separation from an individual care center licensed for more than 12 children, and 1,054-foot distance separation from a city park where 1,500 feet is the minimum distance separation required at 300 West Sahara, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 15, SUP 78660, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed car wash, full service, or auto detailing use at northwest corner of Iron Mountain Road and Sky Village Road, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Item number 16, SUP 78661, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 624 square foot bail bondsman service use at 3310 Grass Avenue, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 17, SUP 78683, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 1,800 square foot beer, wine cooler off-sale establishment use at 2401 West Bonanza Road, Suite Q, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. Item number 18, SDR 78702, for the possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 8,121 square foot social service provider and restaurant development with 8,487 square foot rooftop deck and 2,043 square foot of outdoor plaza area on the south side of Charleston Boulevard, west of Casino Center Boulevard. Ward 3, staff recommends approval.
And Mr. Chairman, since you did read number 11 into the record, if the applicant is here and comes forward and acknowledges that they're in acceptance of those conditions, we can leave that on one motion, one vote.
Oh, that would be great. Is the applicant here for item number 11 or the applicant's representation? It's SUP 78646, owner Village Center, Inc. Is there? Please come forward. State your name for the record and let us know you're in agreement.
Charles Orn, we're in agreement with staff recommendations. Charles Orn.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Commissioner Slotman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on items 10 through 18.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair?
Is that it?
We have comments from the public on item number 16.
Okay, let me open it up. Anybody, any public comment here? See none? Okay.
We have an opposition from Robin Fredeking of 2953 Orchid Lane in Turlock, California. She indicates, "I oppose this request as I do not feel that additional bail bond service within service businesses in downtown Las Vegas will raise residential property values." We also have a opposition from Susan Ray, and she just states that she opposes that application.
And just for clarification for me, I'm sorry about that, it was item 16, correct?
It's item 16, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Slotman?
Through the chair, if I may quickly, on item number 12, I have a project that's right on the notification line. On item number 16, I live within the notification area. And item number 18, I have a project within the notification area. It doesn't affect me any greater or lesser, so I will be voting tonight.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chair,
Commissioner.
also on item 10, I live within the notification area, but it doesn't affect me any greater or lesser.
Thank you.
And,
Commissioner Slotman?
Mr. Chair, on item number 18, I own a urban lounge within the notification area, but it's a restaurant, and it's not going to affect me any greater or lesser than anybody else. I'll be voting on that matter.
Does anybody else own anything up here? Okay. Mr. Slotman, Commissioner.
Noting all the disclosures, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion on items 10 through 18 for approval, subject to staff's conditions.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, items 10 through 12, items 14 through 16, and item 18 this evening are final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days. Items 13 and 17 will move forward to be heard as part of the city council agenda on July 22nd, 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to agenda item number 19 under public hearing items. Abeyance VAR 78468 for a possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 21-foot tall freestanding sign where 12 feet is a maximum allowed, a 240-square-foot sign area where 48 square feet is the maximum allowed, and to allow an electronic message unit where such is prohibited in Ward 1. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, though the applicant has decreased the intensity of the proposed variance request, staff still finds no evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance to support the request and recommends denial. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Maria Vanden Ouden, representing the applicant. Although we asked for consideration to allow for a taller sign in the PR zone, I understand that Ward 1 does not want to approve any sort of request above and beyond what is allowable. So I'm not sure anybody else's comments here, but I would like to ask for some sort of a consideration.
Okay, thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing, but anybody from the public wish to be heard on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close it here. Counsel?
No, Chair, there are no online comments.
All right, thank you. I'll close that public hearing and turn it over to Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you. I spoke to Maria previously last week about this item, and I asked for a debate to investigate something that you mentioned at the last meeting, which was with regard to other signs that were pretty much across the street from this residence that were taller than what was allowed and larger than what was allowed. And investigating those, it turns out that they're in a different zoning, and they don't abut residential property. So even though they are taller and they're on the same street, because they're in different zonings, the rules for signs there are different. And after learning that, I just don't see there's any justification for a taller, larger sign that the applicant is requesting, and I do appreciate you coming back here. And just for the record, just because I oppose it doesn't mean these commissioners can't disagree with me, and I certainly would welcome their comments on this item, but I think you'd be the only one with such a tall sign on that street, and it's certainly not allowed by code, and there's no condition of the land that would justify a variance at this point in time. So I would ask that it not be passed, but I'll open it up to the other commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogan. Commissioner Slotman?
Yes, I also have concerns with it being so large, and also I have a lot of concerns with anytime we have a LED sign or any kind of animated sign, whatever we want to call this, on any of these corridors, because I've been blinded quite a few times up and down Las Vegas Boulevard and Sahara and other places. And I know that there's, the little meter that you'll put on them to help control that, but I still get concerned when we start getting into bigger signs, what you can see, what you can't see, blocking traffic coming in and out of different parking areas. So I do share some of those same concerns.
If I might add, though, we omitted the electronic message units, and we reverted to a standard illuminated sign, such as the signs across the street. Steady burn, internally illuminated. So no flashing.
Okay, I don't see any. Commissioner Rogan?
At this point, I would move to deny item 19, VAR 78468.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, that item is final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to related items 20 through 21, MOD 78707 for the possible action on request for a major modification of the Kyle Canyon development standards to amend the minimum lot size for the Sky R2 medium low-density residential district to allow a 1,280 square foot lot size for a townhome. Staff recommends approval. Item number, Ward 6, staff recommends approval. Item number 21, TMP 78708 for the possible action on a request for a tentative map for a 133-lot townhome residential subdivision on the northeast corner of West Sky Canyon Park Drive and Schember Road. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, staff finds the proposed lot size reduction revision to the Sky R2 district for townhomes will not negatively impact the surrounding community and supports Sky Canyon's goal to provide a variety of homes and floor plans that meet an array of lifestyle needs from entry-level to luxury neighborhoods. If the associated major modification is approved, the proposed tentative map will conform to all NRS Title 19 and Sky Canyon development standards and has been approved by the Sky Canyon Design Review Committee. Staff recommends approval of both applications. Please note that there are additional letters of support and protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Paul Kenner, 4363 South Jones. We appreciate staff support on this. From a standpoint of the major modification request, it is allowed within the townhome characteristic that we do have already in the development guidelines. It does allow the same square footage, and so we're just trying to equally apply it inside the R2 zoning category that does allow townhomes as well. So we're not asking for something that is less than is already allowed, just allowing it to be put into the R2 category. And what I have in front of me, our company does a lot of attached product in Colorado. This specifically is in Denver. This is, there is some building materials that will be slightly different, but this gives you an idea of the product that we're proposing to build at this location. And we appreciate staff support, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody wish to be heard on this agenda items? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing here. Turn it over to council. Anybody on the computer?
Chairman, no question.
Thank you. Okay, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over. Any commissioners have any comments? This is, seeing none, this is my ward. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a great product. Actually, I've gotten a few calls in support. I haven't had any negative comments come in on this agenda item, at least to me. I went over this with the Mayor Pro Tem. Like I said, I think it's a beautiful product. It fits, it works, and with that said, I'm ready to entertain a motion. Seeing nobody else wants to make a comment, I'd make a motion to approve agenda item 20, MOD 78707. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Motion to approve agenda item 21, TMP 78708. And that motion carries. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will both go forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on July 22nd, 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Summerfield. Moving on to related items 22 to 23. 22 ZON 78382 for the possible action on a request for a rezoning from CV and R3 to C1 at 1260 and 1310 West Owens Avenue, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. Item 23, VAR 78712, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 14-foot rear yard setback where 20 feet is required. Ward 5, staff recommends approval. May I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds the proposed rezoning to be compatible with adjacent properties along Owens Avenue and the subject site's commercial land use designation. Since both buildings are existing with established setbacks, the variance request will not intensify or affect the adjacent residential properties. Therefore, staff recommends approval of both applications. Please note there are additional letters of support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Alex Cara, managing member of the entity that actually owns the property at 1260 West Owens.
Thank you, John Spilotro. I'm an attorney for the entity.
Thank you.
Giuseppe Mandel, consultant.
Who wants, anybody, who's going to make the comments?
So basically what we're doing here is we're providing transitional housing. Originally, we had a group, Positive Action Transitional Housing, DBA Nevada Path. Unfortunately, due to the corona, one of the principals of that entity is susceptible with an autoimmune disorder, and things have been slowed down. But from a building owner standpoint, we plan on moving forward as obviously we have the consultants, the attorneys, and we have a medical director on board that actually specializes in this. Right now, we're dealing with a group for transitional housing for women with substance use disorders and diagnosis with their children. So independent of the entity that may possibly occupy the building, the plan for us is actually to move forward and to be able to accommodate all the requirements in terms of number of bathrooms with the facility up to code, whether it's fire, hazard, or safety, to be able to support a multitude of these type of opportunities.
Okay, anybody else wish to make any comments? Okay, seeing no other comments, this is a public hearing. Anybody in the public here wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none, I'll close it here. Mr. Scott?
No comments, Chair.
Okay, I'll turn it over now to Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeing that this item has no greater impact, and I think it's fine, I'm actually ready to make a motion.
Please do.
In agreement with staff's recommendation, I'd like to make a motion for approval on item ZON 78382.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Also like to make a motion for approval on item VAR 78712.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will move forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on July 22nd, 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you. Moving on to related items 24 and 25, ZON 78680 for possible action on a request for a rezoning from R4 high-density residential to C2 general commercial at 2110 West Bonanza Road, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. And number 25, VAR 78756 for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 13-foot tall perimeter wall where 8 feet is the maximum allowed, to allow a wrought iron fence where a solid CMU wall is required for outdoor storage, to allow a chain link and a barbed wire where such are prohibited material, and to allow a 5-foot rear yard outdoor storage setback where 20 feet is required. Staff recommends denial. And the applicants, please state your name for the record.
I'm Cynthia Autry.
Oh,
owner of the
sorry, hold on
property.
1 second, staff report.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, staff finds the proposed general commercial zoning to be compatible with the existing residential and commercial developments in the area. However, no evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance has been presented, and that the applicant has created a self-imposed hardship by proposing a wall height and materials that do not meet Title 19 development standards. Staff therefore recommends approval of the rezoning request, but denial of the variance request. Please note there are additional letters of support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Now please state your name for the record. Thank you.
I'm Cynthia Autry. I'm the owner of the property.
Byron Autry, son.
Okay, whoever would like to speak on the applicant or applicant's
Okay, so the front of the property currently has wrought iron on it, as they stated, but it is screened by oleanders, which the city had requested like 30 years ago. My family's owned that property for 47 years. So currently, you cannot see any of the storage behind there, and I provided pictures of the property. Also, on the same street or in our area, there's many other connexes that are out behind wrought iron, cyclone fences, and Cox has 4 of them sitting out on the corner of Rancho and Bonanza. Ahern has them, property across the street from me has them. UPS has one at Martin Luther King and Bonanza, where they're all visible. But ours is not visible at all. In addition, they are, speaking of the height of the fences, our property was there originally, and the properties to the east, west, and south of us were raised. So I provided measurements as they requested of our interior fences, but on the exterior, it's a lot shorter. It's between 8 to 9 feet. And we have a very weak point at the back where there's like an electrical box at Kensington Suites where it only provides 4 feet of fencing without my additional fencing above it. And it drops down into my property. We wanted to make it safe. The crime rate in that area is pretty high. I didn't really even realize how high it was. I pulled reports on it, and in the last 6 months, it's over 1,000 reported crimes in the area between Martin Luther King and Rancho and between 95 and Washington, which is all our area. There's other properties in our area that not only have the higher fences, but they also have the prohibited material above it. And I understand why they do. It's to protect them too. Only 2 doors down, there's a mini storage that has razor wire above their fencing, and their fencing is at least 10 feet tall with the razor wire. So in order to try and protect my property, which has been, I've had 2 vehicles stolen off of it while my family's owned it, and chemicals were being stolen daily from their businesses. So that's why we have the connexes now and steel to lock them up and the higher fences. So I hope that you'll take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none here.
No comments, Chair.
Thank you. I'll turn it over now to Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to ask a question about vandalism, theft, just really wanted to understand, and you shared some statistics in terms of crimes. So I understand the variances for a higher wall. I guess I'm struggling with the barbed wire on top of the fencing. That's just something that we just typically steer away from that. We don't approve that. But I do understand the security concerns, and I mean, I'd be willing to work with supporting you to help protect the property, considering some of the things that have gone on around it. But I'm unable to support leaving barbed wire on top of the fencing.
We've had mats laid over top of our fences, and people have entered the property within the last 6 months. It's kind of our only defense
Right.
that we really have against ourselves. So we're not there overnight, and we have like $500,000 of equipment, and that's a lot for a family.
Right.
And we're not there overnight, and it's kind of all we have is our defense. So.
I understand.
Yeah, and immediately to the right of us, to the east, is what used to be Folt's Engine Shop, and now Ahern has it. There's a block wall that starts at only a foot tall, and then it steps up. They just walk that block wall right up to the top of my fence and step over, literally. Along on the back from Kensington Suites, they stand on that cable box or electrical box. It's 14 inches tall, then it's only a 4-foot step up to the top of the brick wall, and over they go.
And then it's a 12-foot drop.
The entire yard.
Right. I understand. Understanding what we've done previously, I can't support barbed wire on top of fencing, whether it's CMU, chain link, wrought iron. It's just typically not something that we would approve or support. So what I would suggest is, I'd be willing to work with you in terms of the wall heights and security for your property, but you may want to look at increasing, I don't know, surveillance, hired security, foot patrol, something different, but I'm just not going to be able to support barbed wire on a fence.
Okay, and there is, though, barbed wire in the area already, so how, there's in other establishments right on the street?
Through the chair, if I may, if there's other parcels that have it, we have to pay attention to this specific application. Unfortunately, just like in downtown, there are parcels that have razor wire. When code enforcement goes out there, then it comes to us, and then we have to address it at that point. The commission doesn't go out and look for it. It comes to us like this case.
I understand.
We're myself personally, we have stuff going on in downtown, and we couldn't put up razor wire because it's not allowed, but we did put in surveillance cameras that when there's motion, it detects it, just like Commissioner Williams was saying, and then it lets out an audible noise, and quite honestly, that's helped us tremendously. So if I had $500,000 worth of stuff out there, that's one of the first things.
I have them too.
Yeah, but.
I have rolled-in shutters on the front, Yeah,
Yeah,
just
you
trying
do
to
everything you
protect
can. I
everything.
totally understand, but I sit in the same place as Commissioner Williams on this, so everyone knows.
So would you be willing to accept the condition of removing the barbed wire?
You said we can have then something to maybe make the fences taller, because if we can't make them taller and I can't put razor wire, people are just going to hop over them.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, so it does sound like the commissioner is willing to entertain allowing a higher wall, and maybe with a different, there's tons of wrought iron types that you can do with a higher wall that aren't barbed wire but make it more difficult to do the climb overs. So if I'm hearing you, Commissioner, you're okay with allowing for a higher height and making that more difficult, but removal of the razor wire and looking at some other kind of maybe wall configuration at that height that provides more security. And staff can work with the applicant on some examples where that's been done elsewhere, if that helps.
And just Mr. Summerfield, so should it move forward, they have the ability to work with Councilman Creer between now and City Council to massage that and figure out what it'll work out.
Absolutely, because of the zoning action, this item will move forward to City Council because they have the final word on the zoning request. So yes, between now and the council date, they also have the ability to demonstrate to the ward office what adjustments they may be trying to make in order to respond to Commissioner Williams' recommendation.
Perfect. Commissioner Williams?
Thank you. Unless we have other comments from fellow commissioners, I'm ready to make a motion. So I'd like to make a motion on item ZON 78680 for approval.
You've heard the motion. Let me get here, please. Cast your votes. And that motion carries.
And on item VAR 78756, I'd make a motion for approval under the following conditions: that the razor wire is removed, and I would be interested in allowing a higher fence, but of course, you're going to have to work on that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, so your recommendation for approval is to allow a 13-foot tall perimeter wall where 8 feet is allowed, to allow wrought iron where solid CMU is required, and to allow chain link where as a prohibited material where 5 feet rear yard outdoor storage setback. Wait. Yeah, I'm not sure where that is a prohibited material, and just remove razor wire from the approval.
Correct.
Okay.
And you agree to that condition?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And as mentioned, Mr. Chairman, both of those items will be heard by City Council as a part of their agenda on July 22nd, 2020. And again, if you want to contact the planner that worked with you, we can help with some other examples of fencing that might be able to work and help with the elimination of the razor wire.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out. Okay, moving on to related items 26 and 27, WVR 78635, for the possible action on a request for a waiver to allow 23 parking spaces where 57 are required at 301 South Maryland Parkway, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Item number 27, SUP 78636, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed public or private school secondary use, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the Vision 2045 Downtown Las Vegas Master Plan envisions the downtown area developing into a compact, vibrant, and urban environment. The addition of secondary classrooms to an existing private primary school supports this vision by providing area students a complete educational facility they can attend from kindergarten through 12th grade. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the requested special use permit and associated waiver. Please note there are additional letters of support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Reverend Brad Beckman, pastor of First Good Shepherd Lutheran Church.
Raymond LeBeff, the principal of Mountain View Christian Schools.
Okay, who would want to speak on the application?
We are in our 37th year here in Las Vegas, and we'll be relocating to First Good Shepherd under lease agreement. We are a K-12 private school, and obviously this passage will allow our students to continue to go to high school and graduate from our school.
Okay, anything else? Okay, this is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on this agenda item? Please come forward, state your name for the record.
Xander Cook.
Jade Gibbons.
I think that it would be a good opportunity for the city if we move the school downtown, because it would provide a symbol of what everybody is, a united school regardless of diversity of race and gender.
Thank you.
I've attended Mountain View Christian School since I was in kindergarten, and I'm now about to be a junior in high school, and I would like to stay and graduate from my school.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Tyler Anthony, and I've been at Mountain View for 15 years, and I'm a senior, so this is my last year, so I'm gonna graduate here.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you guys coming out like that. Any other further comments?
And we certainly ask for staff support and welcome the opportunity to move forward.
All right, thank you. Mr. Scott, anybody else?
No online comments, Chairman.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing at this time and turn it over to Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is my ward. I've built a lot of projects in this area, the urban lofts on 11th Street in Carson, and I've always seen your school, the school across the street, and it's always, been welcome in that neighborhood. I look forward to y'all doing a whole lot more, and look forward to supporting your application tonight and bringing K through 12 to that neighborhood.
Thank you.
All right. Looking, Mr. Chairman, on item 26, waiver 78635, I move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, on item number 27, SUP 78636, I move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Please cast. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will both move forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on July 22nd, 2020.
Thank you. Thank you
for your support.
Moving on to related items 28 through 31, 28 VAR 78447, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 0-foot side yard setback where 10 feet is required, a 0 10-foot rear yard setback where 20 feet is required, and a 10-foot tall retaining wall, and a 10-foot tall screen wall where 12 feet is the maximum combination height allowed on the north side of Hammer Lane and Schermer Road. Staff recommends denial. Item number 29, SUP 78539, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a mini storage facility use. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. Item number 30, VAC 78448, for the possible action on a request for a petition to vacate 30-foot wide public sewer easement. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. And item number 31, SDR 78449, for the possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 647-unit, 107,829 square foot mini storage facility with a waiver for a perimeter landscape buffer requirement. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, staff has no objection to the vacation request and recommends approval. However, staff finds the applicant is proposing to overdevelop the subject site as evidenced by the variance and waivers requested. Reducing the size of the proposed mini-storage facility would allow the applicant to meet minimum development standards. Therefore, staff recommends denial of all other applications. Please note that there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Yes, Larry Bitton, 1401 North Green Valley Parkway, representing the developer. First, I want to express appreciation for staff, for planning staff and public works staff. We've had a lot of coordination back and forth, and we appreciate their support. The project is located in a unique spot, a spot that's conducive for self-storage at the interchange of Ann and 215. The site also has some unique challenges, specifically because of the topography. The site drops approximately 25 feet from west to east. The Hammer Lane is a steep road. Any of you who have been out to the Clark County School District bus yard know what that road is like. So that is the only access point for this site, and the developer needs to make up the grade across there. One of the ways he's mitigating this is to use the west wall of his west building to function as a retaining wall, and that's the reason for the request of the landscape waiver and the zero side yard setback. If that setback wasn't requested, there would be most surely along that west boundary line, which is between this site and a future commercial site, that would be a scarp. It'd be 660 feet long. It'd be a direct linkage between the interchange and the bus yard. And we know from past experience that that is a concern out in Ward 6 with having narrow, unused, with minimal visibility landscape strips or strips of land between adjacent properties. And we know that those all they accumulate trash and also are conducive to have homeless and maybe people with less than desirable intent walking back and forth. And so that is the reason that the developer has proposed the zero setback. There is landscape proposed along the Hammer frontage, along the east frontage, and along the frontage along the 215 Beltway. Within that frontage, landscape was proposed, and the 24-inch box trees were proposed in there. Staff requested that those be upgraded to 36-inch box trees, which is a significant expense for the developer, but he has agreed to install the larger trees from the onset of the development. The retaining walls, again, the variance and waivers for those wall heights are required due to the significant topography drop across the site. It's attractive building elevations. The developer has done several other projects in town, and we feel that it's a great area for self-storage and with minimal impact to any adjacent land uses, and that it's conducive. So I look forward to taking any of your questions. We respectfully request your approval, and we do agree with the conditions of approval that staff has requested if these 4 items are approved. Thank you.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on these items? Seeing none, I'll close it here. Mr. Scott?
No online comments, Chairman.
Thank you very much. At this time, then, I'll turn it over to myself. I appreciate you getting with me over this project and went and checked it out. Yes, it is a very irregular shaped piece of parcel, and, you know, honestly, I can't think of a better thing to go on that piece of parcel. It's, than have minimal traffic going in and out. I appreciate you, when I spoke with you, stepping up the trees to the 36-inch ones. I really don't have a problem with it. I think it works. I haven't had any pushback on it. And like I said, I don't know what else would want to go up against the bus depot out there anyway. So, but if there's no other comments, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve item number 28.
Mr. Chairman, Lucian Pyatt, Public Works.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, we just need to make a slight condition change to the SDR. Item number 31, condition number 16, we need to revise from 40 feet down to 30 feet for the easement width.
Okay, and you're fine with that, sir?
Anytime they ask for less is a good thing, so
All right.
we're all for it.
Okay. With that said, then I'm going to move forward with making a motion to approve item number 28, VAR 78447. And that motion carries. Item number 29, SUP 78539, motion to approve. And that motion carries. Moving on to 30, VAC 78448, motion to approve. That motion carries. Moving on to 31, SDR 78449, with the amended condition number 16 from 40 foot down to 30 foot. Motion to approve. And that motion carries. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chairman, those items are all final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Okay, moving on to related items 32 and 33. 32, VAR 78462, for the possible action on request for a variance to allow a stub street where a cul-de-sac or hammerhead is required and a private street without a gate to not meet public street standards, and connectivity ratio of 1.1 where 1.3 is required, and a 21-foot private drive pavement width where 24 feet is required at the northwest corner of Wells Green Lane and Corwood Green Lane, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. And item number 33, TMP 78463, for the possible action and request for a tentative map for a 30-lot single-family residential subdivision, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, no evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance has been presented in that the applicant has created a self-imposed hardship by proposing to develop a residential subdivision that fails to meet minimum Title 19 complete street standards. Staff therefore recommends denial of both applications. Please note your supplemental information packet includes a revised tentative map and staff report to address issues from the Las Vegas Valley Water District and the Fire Department regarding the stub street widths and radius. As a result, the portion of the variance request to allow a 21-foot private drive pavement width where 24 feet is required is no longer needed. Also note that there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record, sir.
Good evening, Mark Bangan with WLB, here representing our applicant, Aspect Homes. As everyone has stated, our initial submittal was a 30-lot tentative map that had 25-foot wide stub streets going north-south on the site. After seeing the staff report and seeing the objection from the Water District, we talked with the Water District and that they would allow for a 30-foot wide stub street, which allows for 26 foot of pavement, and that would take care of their concern and also with the fire department's concerns. So what we did was we revised our tentative map and showed the 30-foot wide stub streets. What we ended up doing was these 4 lots on the end here, we took 5 feet of width out of each one of those. We are still at the same minimum lot size, the same maximum lot size. Nothing else has been affected by this layout change, and I think that we've met the intent of what we need for this development. Again, this is an infill parcel. It is it's an odd shape, so I know the staff says we don't have any hardships, but I feel that we do just because of the shape and the location and it being an infill. So we agree with staff's recommendations for approval, and we would consider we would love to have your approval as well.
Thank you, Mark. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody wish to be heard on these agenda items? Seeing none here. Scott?
No online comments, Chair.
Okay. Close public hearing. Turn it over to Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And I was able to speak to the applicant earlier today. I ended up reading through this entire item, and when looking at the connectivity ratio, I didn't have as big of a concern because the stub streets weren't that long. You could still gain access to the main street. And the private gate really wasn't an issue with me. One of the things that stuck out was the 24-foot wide stub streets. And then I went back to read your emails, and you had 3 of them there. And then third one I read, and you said that you already worked with the water district on those stub streets, resubmitting that to the city and to the water district, and that is in our backup now. And so I appreciate you doing that. So, I do see, the unique nature of this parcel because it's really narrow and long. There's not a lot of different configurations you can come up with in this situation. So I don't have a problem with this. And let me ask you, because in the report, there was something about the utilities, and Public Works made a comment in the staff report stating that hopefully the utilities would be able to get worked out on the private easement or something along those lines. And if not, you might get, 6 months down the road and then find out that you're at a standstill. You can't move forward.
Yes.
Can you address that?
Yeah, I understand the question. So in there, it talks about we're having to provide a public sewer easement through for the sewer that's in the private street, which our developer is in the process of talking with that HOA to get. So as far as I know at this point in time, we are moving forward. We're getting everything, all of our ducks in the row. So as far as I know at this point in time, we're working through it and we're getting all the answers we need.
Okay. As long as the applicant and the owners are aware of the...
And the owner is right here, actually.
Hello. My name is Mickey Stratton. I'm with Aspect Homes. Yes, we've addressed the issue on the easement with the homeowner association who owns the rights to that easement, and they've agreed to sign the easement for us, and it's just a processing time thing. But we've already come to an agreement with them on that.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure that y'all were aware of that potential problem in the future.
We appreciate that. But
okay.
Yes, that was one of the first things we worked out with them. So.
All right. Seeing no other comments, I'd like to make a motion on item 32, VAR 78462. I would move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Yes, and Mr. Chairman, item 33, TMP 78463, move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
All right, you've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. That's everybody. Just waiting for it to post. And that motion carries. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, those items are final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days. I will note, typically a tentative map has a 7-day appeals period, but because without the variance, the tentative map would be invalid, the tentative map will have a 10-day appeals period in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Moving on to related items 34 through 37. Item 34, VAR 78669, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow 55 parking spaces where 74 are required on the east side of Osa Blanca Road and Farm Road. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. Item number 35, SUP 665 for the possible action on a request for a major amendment of a previously approved special use permit for a proposed 6,769 square foot liquor establishment Tavern Use. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. Item number 36, SUP 78666 for the possible action on a request for a major amendment of a previously approved special use permit for a proposed 6,769 square foot gaming establishment, restricted license use with a waiver to allow such use within 330 feet of a single-family resident detached dwelling. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. And item number 37, SDR 78667 for the possible action on a request for a major amendment of a previously approved site development plan review for a proposed 551 square foot, two-story tavern with 440 square foot of outdoor dining and a 774 square foot rooftop dining area and a 38-foot tall grain silo. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, staff finds that the requested special use permit amendments and waiver of distance separation from the nearest single-family detached dwelling will not intensify the uses as previously approved. Staff also finds evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance has been presented in that the subject site is in irregular shape with existing improvements that alter the developable area of the subject site. Staff therefore recommends approval of all applications. Please note that there are additional letters of support and protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is John Carroll, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive. I'm here on behalf of the owner. As stated by staff, the project has been approved prior, and with the conditions of the site and the restraints that have been on there with NDOT and just being able to develop the site, there's been some additional waivers needed. We've added a parking garage on the south side of the site, and we have the building up to the north more. The silo's been approved prior. The waiver that we're asking for has been approved prior. The special uses have been approved prior, and there's nothing really new on the project except for the design review.
Thank you. This is noticed at a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on this item or these items? Seeing none here, Mr. Scott?
Mr. Chairman, there are two comments from online. The first is, I support the project and all related applications. That from Scott Towner of 9120 Irish Elk Avenue in Las Vegas. The other is from Michelle Vinatieri. I oppose the project and all related applications. That is an incredibly dangerous road, and adding a tavern isn't going to help. Plus, there is already another bar just down the street. Why do we need two? That's it.
Because they can. That's why. Okay, I'll turn this one over to myself here. Yes, like it was stated earlier, this has been going on for well over a year, I believe, year and a half.
2016 is when it
Yeah,
started.
so this is not the first time this came up before us. We previously approved. Now they finally got, sounds like they got an anchor from what I understand.
Yes.
And they're ready to move forward on it. So if there's no other comments or questions or concerns, I just would entertain a motion to approve item number 34, VAR 78669. And that motion carries. Motion to approve item 35, SUP 78665. That motion carries. Motion to approve item 36, SUP 78666. And that motion carries. And finally, item 37, SDR 78667. Motion to approve. And that motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good night.
And Mr. Chairman, those items are all final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you. Moving on to related items. This is a long one. 38 through 52. First one, 38, VAR 78684, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow an 8-foot tall retaining wall where 6 feet is allowed for a perimeter wall adjacent to lot 11, 14, and 15 at the southwest corner of Van Road and Wallapai Way. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. VAR 78685, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 16-foot tall retaining wall where 6 feet is allowed for a perimeter wall adjacent to Lot 138 and 150, Ward 6. Staff recommends denial. Items 40, 42, 43, and 47 through 52, VAR 78688, VAR 78690, VAR 78961, VAR 78695, VAR 78696, VAR 78697, VAR 78698, VAR 78699, and VAR 78700 for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 16-foot tall retaining wall where 6 feet is allowed for lots 70, 105, 106, 210, 211, 215, 216, 217, and 218, Ward 6. Staff recommends denial. And items 41 and 44 through 46, VAR 78689, VAR 78692, VAR 78693, and VAR 78694 for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow an 8-foot tall retaining wall where 6 feet is allowed for lots 80, 193, 194, and 195, Ward 6. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is proposing to perpetuate the overdevelopment of the site as evidenced by the need for 15 additional variances. If approved, the proposed residential subdivision will have 51 approved variances associated with it for lot size, lot width, and wall heights. These variances are self-imposed hardships, and staff recommends denial of all applications. Please note additional letters of support and protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Stephanie Allen, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive, here on behalf of the applicant, D.R. Horton. This site has a lot of history on it. It's located off of the 215, just south of Ann Road and west of Wallapai, right here. Bob Gronauer represented this for the Olympia Group and spent a lot of time, probably up to 2 years, working with the neighbors in the area, with the councilwoman, with the county commissioner on this project to come up with a plan that would meet a transition with the RE lots closer to the existing rural homes in the area, and then some smaller lots as you get closer to the 215, and then the smallest of the lots just to the west of the 215. You can see here in beige. There is a huge elevation change here, and there's a unique situation with not only the beltway in between the property, but there's also a large power line that goes right down the middle of these yellow lots and the blue and green lots, with elevation changes just on this east side from 40 feet just in the green and the blue area, so some significant changes in elevation. This is the way that the project was approved and the lots were approved. What we're now coming in with is the specifics. D.R. Horton is buying the property and they are putting in their retaining walls. They are doing some terracing of the retaining walls on some of the internal lots so that homeowners don't have one huge tall wall in the back, but they do have some terracing. But the specific waivers that you read in, some of them are up to 8 feet, some of them are up to 6 feet, but that's up to. Most of them are far less than that, actually. A couple of them are adjacent to the beltway, again, with a significant elevation change adjacent to the beltway. There's a few here adjacent to a common element that will have walls interior to the development. Again, those are a couple of the ones that are up to 16 feet and adjacent to the power pole. Then majority of them are internal lots, and also a couple up here that are just asking for a little bit more than the standard 6 feet and up to 8 feet to allow in between the homes where, again, you've got elevation changes. Like, for example, right here where you've got homeowners, there's a 10-foot drop between their homes and these homes that are proposed here. So while we are asking for up to 8 feet on some of them, it's 6.5, some of them 7.5, but it's up to 8 feet on those 4 lots over here. And then there's a cluster down sort of in the corner here again where this 40-foot drop happens, where you've got some terraced walls, and there's only a couple of them that require that 16 feet, but most of them are around 11 or 12 feet. But overall, the reasoning again is just the overall elevation change. This is the map that was approved that D.R. Horton is going to develop out, and we'd very much appreciate your approval so they could do so.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody wish to be heard on this? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing. Mr. Scott?
Chair, there are one item online. It says, "I oppose the project and all related applications." That's from Scott Moraine of 9925 Spider Creek Court.
Thank you. Okay, well, we've been dealing with this one. Most of the commissioners that are up here knows this was known as the Finger property, if you remember. So it's been around for a minute. Now we're just doing some cleanup on it. Yes, the topography, I think I said that right, is extreme. I was out there actually today to go check it out. Just one more time, because it was so lengthy with so many variances, and I just wanted to make sure, and I could see what you're asking to do by doing the walls. It actually gives them a bigger lot, where you, instead of stepping it and having a smaller lot. So, I mean, I'm all for that, especially what we went through with all the homeowners trying to keep it as rural and as big as possible. And as we got to the freeway, we try to make it a little more dense as a buffer, sound buffer, for those that have the rural backyards. So, I mean, I don't have any problem with doing the walls like that to give these people the biggest backyards they could possibly have, or the biggest lots they could possibly have. So unless there's any other comments, I would entertain a motion to approve. I don't see any, so I'll move on to item number 38, VAR 78684, motion for approval. And that motion carries. Item number 39, VAR 78685, motion for approval. And that motion carries. May I just read the item numbers for the next ones instead of all the VARs?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next motion would be to approve items 40, 42, 43, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, and 52. And that motion carries. Final one would be for items 41, 44, 45, and 46. Motion for approval. And that motion carries.
Thank you
And
very much.
Mr. Chairman, all of those items are final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you.
very much. Have a good night.
You
Appreciate
too.
it.
Moving on to related items 53 through 58. Item 53, VAR 78704, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow 1,515 parking spaces where 3,710 parking spaces are required at the southwest and northwest corners of Cyrus and Rancho Drive. Ward 1, staff recommends denial. Items number 54, SUP 78705, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 26,667 square foot liquor establishment Tavern Use at the southwest corner of Sirius and Rancho Drive. Staff recommends denial. Item number 55, SUP 78706, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 26,667 square foot liquor establishment Tavern Use at the southwest corner of Sirius and Avenue and Rancho Drive. Staff recommends denial. Ward 1, item number 56, SUP 78766, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 26,667 square foot liquor establishment Tavern Use. Ward 1, staff recommends denial. Item number 57, SUP 78767, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 35,000 square foot liquor establishment Tavern Use. Ward 1, staff recommends denial. Item number 58, SDR 78709, for the possible action on a request for a major amendment of an approved site development plan review for a proposed 115,001 square foot addition to an existing 217,899 square foot commercial recreation amusement indoor-outdoor development. Ward 1, staff recommends denial. May I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed expansion further exacerbates a parking deficiency at the subject site as evidenced by the parking variance requested. In addition, the applicant has chosen not to combine these subject parcels at this time, which means that while this project functions as one development, it has different land use and zoning designations for each parcel. Therefore, staff recommends denial of all requested entitlements. Please note additional letters of support and protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on one second. I just want to also make sure on item 53, under the green in the note, the request changed to allow 1,535 parking spaces where 3,713 parking spaces are required. I want to just make sure I read that into the record. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you. Jennifer Lazovich, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive, here tonight representing Area 15. The application before you does several different things. In this location right here is the existing Area 15 building that you can see when you drive along Interstate 15. The two new exciting experiences that we have coming to the Area 15 location. The first is Lost Spirits. If any of you have heard of that, it is an existing attraction in Los Angeles right now, and they are going to be opening their second location here at Area 15. Essentially, it's a combination of a tour and a distillery. The tour will start in the existing Area 15 building, and then you'll kind of get an experience through like a Havana Nights with holograms that are doing performances, and then you'll go into some type, we haven't quite decided what it will be, but some type of transportation that will take you down to this first building right here, and that will be where the actual distillery is going to be located. They will distill whiskey and rum, and then that will be part of your overall experience, and then you'll take a tour through that entire building. The next new building that we are constructing is right here, just to the north of these three existing industrial buildings. That's going to be the Luminarium, and the Luminarium will be an attraction where you'll go in, you'll sit down, and then you'll go on a simulated ride with essentially overlooking different experiences, like, you know, you're flying over Egypt or you're flying over Rome or something like that, that just gives you a sensory experience and kind of an idea of what it would be like to be in other places in other countries. And then when you jump over Sirius, this is the old Scandia lot. In this location, we are going to pave it and do parking lot. We consider this overflow parking, despite I know the very extreme parking variance that I am asking for. We still believe that the vast majority of people who will come to Area 15 can fit on the actual Area 15 site with all the parking that's located on this Area 15 development right here. That said, we do own this parcel to the north. We view it, and it is noted in your staff report, that it would be also an opportunity for additional special events. We understand we have to go through your special event process to do things there, but that's the reason why we have certain specific waivers, which basically, as you can see in this interior middle, we don't have any landscape islands or fingers. It's done intentionally that way so that we can activate more of that lot for different types of outdoor events. The other components of the application include expanding the tavern uses onto these buildings. Let me just state for the record, they're not taverns with 15 gaming machines. They're taverns so that we can utilize the ability to serve liquor without the food constraints. And then finally, we did ask for a nightclub use across these uses. That is the exact same thing that we did on the Area 15 side of the project that's already built, and it really drives the need for this parking variance. Again, as we sit here today, I don't anticipate, at least not the two uses that I just described, being activated as a true traditional nightclub, but because the city's code is so restrictive in what a nightclub can be, arguably if we're serving alcohol and we have some kind of live or amplified music, and if somebody just might start spontaneously dancing, we're a nightclub. So to be on the safe side, we asked for the nightclub to be here, but again, that drives the variance use. A couple of technical issues that I wanted to go over. We acknowledge staff's request that we ultimately make Area 15 and these parcels right here the same zoning designation. Right now, Area 15 itself is in a commercial zoning district, and these buildings and the new building would be, or are, located in an industrial district zoned M. That's driven by the fact that the Lost Spirits Distillery, which will be located in this building, that's not allowed in commercial. So we have to stay with the industrial zoning. And the question is, eventually, do we get to a point where we can get comfortable with the uses, with certain uses that aren't allowed within the commercial, that staff is asking that we rezone this piece M as well. There is a condition, it is condition number 4, that would require us to do that effectively now. And we've met with staff, and we appreciate them being open to the deletion of that condition. I will note on the record, we are actively working with them and through issues that we have, such as with our lending documents on this existing commercial piece, as well as multiple ownership levels. So it's not as easy as you may think to just go and do it, but we understand what they're saying, and so we're exploring, our commitment is to explore that request in more detail as we move forward, but we would ask that you delete condition number 4 tonight. And then finally, on the Scandia site, Councilman Knutson has expressed a desire to have an urban trail of sorts go through portions of his district. And he has asked us to try to be creative and see how we could incorporate that. The Area 15 site was developed already, so we don't have the ability to do it there, but with the Scandia site coming in here, we took a crack at what we thought maybe an urban trail might look like, something that would fit in with this area and kind of facilitate what he's thinking. And so our landscape plan effectively shows 10 feet of landscaping adjacent to the overflow parking lot, and then 10 feet of combined sidewalk and tree wells that would be located right along Rancho Road. So in lots of spaces, that urban trail, the concrete part would be 10 feet wide. I mean, we did that intentionally, and then much like on Fremont Street, you'll see the tree wells as you go to kind of give you a little bit of landscaping on the roadside. We need to work with Public Works and specifically your drainage team on how we can accomplish this based upon some drainage requirements that occur with how you convey the drainage, and I won't pretend to be an expert on this, but in working with Lucian right before the meeting, condition number 18 that you have on the agenda, we believe is just vague enough to hopefully allow for the flexibility for us to sit with your staff and see if there's a way to make this vision come true and, bring it to the project. So we think that I don't think you need to make any changes. We think we've got that flexibility inherent within that condition, but I did want to note for the record that we're doing our best to try to put in that urban trail, but we are a little constrained with drainage, and we need to see if there's some flexibility down the road. So thank you for that long-winded explanation on these items, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on these items? Seeing none here.
No comments,
No,
Chair.
council, okay. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you, Chairman. That's a lot of stuff we have to talk about. I think the easiest thing to dispense with are the SUPs, items 54, 55, 56, and 57. This is a unique project, something I don't think Las Vegas has seen before, and as you noted, this is a mixture of commercial and industrial uses. It's not very much adjacent to residential areas, so there are some nearby. I think that the SUPs are warranted. I think they're harmonious and compatible with the neighborhood, so I'm not opposed to that. With regard to your parking variance, though, yes, you're asking for a significant deviation from what's required. I'm looking at the project and in speaking with you just yesterday, I do think that the variance is warranted given what you're intending to do with this project. However, you're going to have to address the parking at some point in the future, and I don't think surface parking is going to last for this project, so perhaps the next time you come back or the time after that, because I know you will be back on this project before us, I want to see something that's going to allay my concerns about parking problems in that area should your project and hopefully be successful. So I am supportive of it, but with that direction that you speak with your client and figure out a plan in the future for parking. And then finally, with regard to condition, I think it's number 4, Well, two things. On the SDR, item 58, condition 4, I'm okay with it being stricken, but again, you're just kicking that can down the road. You're going to have to address those things. Planning's asking you to do it, they've asked before, and so it needs to be done sooner rather than later. So, I understand that your client has significant financing concerns that involve keeping it separate uses right now, but you've got to get back with them so that the next time you come back, that you, again, have some plan for how you're going to address those issues that staff has raised again and again with you. Do you understand that?
Yes,
Okay.
we do understand that. It's multi-leveled. There's a scenario where the zoning could work, but not the combination of the lots. So that condition kind of does two things. So
Right.
we want to get with our engineers too to see if maybe there's a way to preserve the lot lines, but, flex. And on the parking issue,
Right.
just so that I can state to you, I suppose it's a great problem for us to have so many people coming here that we need to build more parking, and I think that that's a great problem to have. But we also believe that a significant amount of the traffic that comes here will be driven by our tourist population that will come back to this town, I know, at some point. And in fact, that's how we had while this didn't occur at this level, we did get a tourism improvement district, and we have to prove that a majority of the people coming here are tourist-based. Now, that said, one of the things that we have talked about with staff, I have mentioned before, is that when we get open, and but for what happened, we would have been farther along with that, we want to come back to you with maybe a special use permit for an alternative parking study, but we would actually have data, because we'd be operating, we'd be open, we'd know, is that, are people driving there? Are they taking Ubers or Lyfts or taxis or shuttle buses? And so I'd be able to have more real data rather than just speculation on, again, in our opinion, proving that the parking that we are providing today is enough, but it would be with real data. So that's kind of my plan, just so that you guys have heard my plan.
And we discussed that yesterday, and perhaps in the future, if you do have that plan, there'd be a reason to expunge the variance that we're talking about this evening. So that's why I'm comfortable right now with item 53 and that parking variance. And then finally, in speaking with staff as well, I do think that item or condition 18 would allow for Councilman Knudsen's walking or running path that he intends to put down there to connect the neighborhoods. And I think that's an important project, especially for what you intend to do, so that people who are not driving and will not be parking there can have another method of arriving at Area 15. So that being said, and that record made, and I appreciate you for making that record with us tonight, unless there's other comments, I'm ready to make a motion.
Commissioner Schlott.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I'll keep it brief. I would just like to see that study when y'all have it available, and I'm sure it'll come to us before our next Planning Commission hearing. I think potentially maybe one of the issues is, since you're overlaying the entire building with the tavern, even though the entire building might not be a tavern, it's probably skewing those numbers quite a bit and making it appear that we need that many parking spaces. I doubt you'll ultimately need that much. So I'm curious, and I'm anxiously awaiting that alternative parking study, so I can have my fears, or whatever. So we can review that and see what you're actually going to need. So, anyways, that's all my comments. Thank you.
I just have one. So we talked about this on the phone, so you're encompassing the whole building, the 26,667 square foot, calling it a tavern. Are you allowed to have multiple taverns in there, or only just if one occupies that building, then only one can because of the distance separation issue or anything?
No, that doesn't apply to this project. There's a text amendment that was approved several years ago that says if you have, I think it's 140,000 square foot indoor commercial amusement space, then you can essentially do what, in the liquor license scenario, it's general on sale, but through planning, they look at it as a tavern. So I could, but to answer your question, take the Area 15, which is where we already have it. We will have multiple tenants in that building with multiple taverns, side by side. There's no distance restriction in that particular case. Now, if we did the gaming, if we activated the 15 machines, which we would have the ability to do somewhere on the Area 15 site, then that would set the distance restriction for another, I'll call it traditional tavern, and I'm looking to Robert to make sure I'm right, a traditional tavern with 15 machines. This is more just for the alcohol side of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Mr.
that-
Chairman, just to be clear, yeah, so the tavern approval over the site will establish land use for the alcohol component, then the licensing will be through the general on-sale component, and then there'll be, as an umbrella, and then there'll be some other stuff. However, if they do establish gaming, they only get an entitlement for 15 gaming machines across the property. So that's the part where you get closer to that traditional tavern element, is if they want to have gaming at some point on the property under that land use entitlement for the tavern, they get a total of 15 machines, period. They can't, even if they have a smaller scale, other licenses on the property under the general on sale, the entitlement only gives them 15 gaming machines without additional entitlements.
Agreed.
Thank you, thank you. Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you, Chairman. Make a motion at this time to approve item 53 VAR 78704.
You've heard the motion, please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve item 54 SUP 78705, subject to any conditions.
You've heard the motion, please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
I also make a motion to approve item 55 SUP 78706, subject to any conditions.
You've heard the motion, please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Item 56, I make a motion to approve SUP 78766, also subject to any conditions.
You've heard the motion, please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Item 57, I make a motion to approve SUP 78767, subject to any conditions.
You've heard the motion, please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And finally, with regard to item 58 SDR 78709, I make a motion to approve subject to all conditions other than condition number 4 would be stricken.
You've heard the motion, please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, those items are all final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to related items 59 and 60. 59 VAR 78675 for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 0-foot setback where 5 feet is required for a proposed freestanding sign at 206 North 3rd Street, 221 North 3rd Street, and 220 North 4th Street, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Item number 60, MSP 78676, for the possible action on a request for a major amendment of an approved master sign plan to relocate and increase the height and size of one previously approved freestanding sign at an existing hotel casino, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, as evidenced by the requested variance, staff finds the proposed amendment will have a negative impact to the adjacent commercial development and is not compatible with the existing development in the area. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the requested amendment to the master sign plan. Please note additional letters of support and protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brad Aronson with the CIM Group, 4700 Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles, representing CIM, the owner of the Downtown Grand. As I believe everyone here is aware, we are nearing completion on the third and final tower of the Downtown Grand Resort, adding 495 keys to the existing property there. That tower will have 7 floors of guest rooms, and we will be replacing the valet porte-cochere down below on the ground floor, basically in the same place that it was previously. What we're proposing this evening and asking for your approval on is to basically take the same sign, valet directional sign that we had on Stewart Avenue originally, put it back in a slightly modified location along Stewart Ave. So it's the same sign, it's currently being refurbished. We are asking for a 0-foot setback in order to deal with some of the existing conditions that exist around the property and around the new tower. So we've had a couple studies done for visibility and looking to see if we could in fact accommodate a 5-foot setback as required by code. You can see from this image here that with the existing tower, the existing wall from our loading dock along with some of the columns that support the new tower, that sign would be blocked from visibility from vehicular traffic traveling east along Stewart Avenue. Similarly, looking back west, you find that that sign is almost entirely blocked by that column. So what we are requesting is that the sign itself be allowed to have a 0-foot setback along Stewart Ave so that we have maximum visibility for those vehicles traveling eastbound along Stewart and can make the right turn into our valet.
All right, thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none here. Mr. Scott?
No comments online, Chair.
No comment. Okay, I will now turn this over to Commissioner Williams.
Thank you. Just a question. Did we look at potentially, a different type of sign, maybe a blade sign, attaching it to the building, something different?
We have looked at a couple different types of signs. The building itself sits right on the property line, actually encroaches a little bit over, and we worked with planning staff and council on that airspace easement agreement. So in order for us to put anything on the side of the building, we'd actually be encroaching further past the edge of the sidewalk and into the vehicular lane. So we're hoping to be able to reuse the existing sign that was there and just do so underneath the building as a pole sign.
What's being refurbished exactly?
So it is this sign exactly. So what is being refurbished is basically the entire face of the sign. So all of the chasing lights and the neon, basically that sign will look brand new when it's finished.
Okay. Yeah, so, we actually have development standards that facilitate signs closer to the buildings, depending on the situation. I think, given this situation, it's not like but I saw something about a larger sign or bigger in size.
Yeah, there was some confusion with the staff report, which incorrectly says that we are increasing the size. We are not increasing the size of the sign. It is the exact same sign face.
Okay. All right. So with that information and the fact that there's standards out there that allow us to move it closer to the building, unless my colleagues have any comments, I'm ready to make a motion here.
Please do.
I'd like to make a motion on item VAR 78675 for approval.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And I make a motion on item MSP 78676, motion for approval.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will move forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on 7/22/20. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, moving on to related items 61 and 62. 61, VAR 78719 for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 27% of wall signage on the eastern elevation of the Expo Center, where 20% is the maximum allowed at 320, 445, 475, and 495 South Grand Central Parkway, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. Item number 62, MSP 78720 for the possible action on a request for a major amendment to a previously approved master sign plan to add wall signage on the Expo building and to redesign and change the location of the previously approved pillar freestanding sign at Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, with the exception of the proposed minimal increase for the wall signage, the proposed master sign plan adheres to all other Title 19 requirements. The proposed signs are consistent with the existing convention and exposition center development and are located in satisfactory locations that do not adversely impact neighboring properties. Therefore, staff recommends approval of both requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. Carrie Kramer, 6037 South Fort Apache Road, here on behalf of the applicant. We'd like to thank staff for the recommendation of approval. The Market Center, when in building the new Convention Center and Expo facility, lost 9 entitlements on the east face of their garage. So in order to kind of recoup those, they have 8 three on either side and then two right above the entrance, and they're just asking for those entitlements to replace the existing entitlements lost on the parking garage. They also were approved for a pillar sign previously, as mentioned. They'd like to move that down to the corner, consistent with all setbacks and everything, and just make it triangular as opposed to square, and it increases the size by 7 feet.
Okay, this is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none here. Mr. Scott?
No comments online, Chair.
Okay, at this time, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Williams.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is not facing residential, it's actually, I believe, facing the Smith Center.
Yes, that's correct.
So at this time, unless there's further comments, I'm ready to make a motion.
Please do.
I'd like to make a motion on item VAR 78719, motion for approval.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And item MSP 78720, motion for approval.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will move forward and be heard as part of City Council agenda on 7/22/20.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 63, VAR 78641, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 5-foot corner side yard setback where 10 feet is required for a proposed 178-square-foot building addition on 0.12 acres at 2725 Riesling Legend Way. Let's see, that's Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, no unique or extraordinary circumstances have been presented by the applicant to warrant the requested variance, and staff finds the request to be a self-imposed hardship. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the request. Please note additional letters of protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record, ma'am.
Alice Harris Bell.
Okay, if you'd like to explain the application before us today,
I'd like to explain it.
if you want to.
Yes, I'm retired from Medica a couple times, and I just want to get additional room built onto my house the rest of my life. I can just relax and enjoy.
Okay. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody here wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Scott?
No comments online, Chair.
Okay, at this time, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Williams.
All right, thank you. So I see here we did get, as staff said, 2 additional notices of protest. 320 notices went out initially with no response. What specifically is the addition you're looking to add on?
It's den, family room. Family room.
Okay. And we're looking for a 5-foot setback, 5 foot where 10 foot is required. Self-imposed hardship here, so there's not really a lot we're going to be able to do in this situation. The way that the house is constructed on the land, you've got some restrictions there. At this time, I'm not going to be able to support that.
I don't understand why, really.
Well, you're required to have a 10-foot distance there, and you only have 5, and so we're really tight on space in the yard, and so, it's just, from a code perspective, we just can't, with staff's recommendation, I'm going to have to follow staff's recommendation on this one.
Thank you.
So unless we have further comments, Mr. Chair, ready to make a recommendation here?
I see none. Please do.
All right, I'd like to make a recommendation on item VAR 78641, motion for denial.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Yes vote is for denial. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that item will go forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on July 22nd, 2020. So the item will go forward to council for final consideration, ma'am.
Okay, moving on to item number 65, VAR 78703, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 3-foot yard side setback where 5 feet is required for an existing accessory structure, Class 2 garage at 7065 Delray Avenue, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this variance request is the result of code enforcement action for the construction of a garage without building permits. No unique or extraordinary circumstance has been presented by the applicant to warrant the requested variance, and staff finds the request to be self-imposed hardship. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the request. Please note additional letters of protest were received after publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Xavier Watkins.
I'm Monica Watkins.
State your name again one time, sir. The mic was off.
Xavier
Xavier
Watkins.
Okay, whoever wants to explain the application, please do.
Well, the application is pretty much how it states. It's actually more than 3 feet that's set back, but that's what they've written down. The property is actually shaped almost like a pizza as it goes back. It's a 42-feet garage. The rear end is like maybe 5'3" from the property line, and the north end, I would say, is 3 feet 8 inches or something like that. We're like 14 inches too close in our own yard. So we have other structures that's on our property that's set even closer. We purchased the property about 4 years ago. Las Vegas Paving actually did the footing and cement work, and I forgot the name of the one company that did the actual framing, Focus Framing. The garage is very well built. Instead of 2x4s, it's built with 2x6s, 2x10s, 2x8s. Everything is overbuilt and is very nice. Even the court enforcement officers, they liked it. They didn't see a problem with it. It's been there for over a year, maybe 2. It's not bothering anybody. I don't know why anyone would complain. It's just for storing classic cars. I'm a collector, and we would very much like to keep our garage. Put a lot of time and money into it. When we bought the property years ago, the real estate agents stated we could basically build what we wanted. Well, we found out different from that. But, we love our property. We love our neighbors. I don't know how they feel about us, but we don't mess with nobody. We take care of our business, and basically what revolves around 7065. So we just hope you guys approve it.
All right, thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody wish to be heard on the item? Seeing none. Scott?
Mr. Chair, there's one comment. It's a little lengthy, so bear with me. This is from Greg Ostel. He opposes the item. He lives at 1510 Montessori Street. I oppose the project and all related applications. My concern is threefold. First, this property has removed almost all vegetation and replaced it with over 1,000 square feet of non-permitted concrete driveway. They have built an albatross building squeezed between two adjacent buildings, one on his property and the other on the adjacent property for which the setback is non-compliant. There are currently 8 vehicles and a car hauler in the driveway and other cars in the pending garage. This leads me to suspect a commercial or business use of the property. This garage has less than 5 feet clearance from his existing auxiliary building and less than 10 feet from a casita for which you granted a 5-foot variance for residential use previously on the adjacent property. I have a 325-gallon above-ground propane tank that backs both his pending garage and additional auxiliary building. According to the previous records, this auxiliary building was permitted for auxiliary use and not residential. Sits 5 feet off my property line and a young family lives in it. It appears this garage will be used for automotive repair and restoration business. Any gases or ignition sources potentially used must not be within 25 feet of my existing propane tank, nor the residential structures immediately next to it or next door. This poses a safety hazard on multiple levels. Secondly, they need to be seeking a variance on 2 existing buildings, not one for residential use and the other for auxiliary use, of which I view as too much building congestion for such a small lot, nor compliant with code. My side property line now looks like a city block. Lastly, I was never consulted for objections, formally or informally, to this building. Had I been given the opportunity to do so, I would have gladly expressed the concerns I'm giving now. I have pictures that show the high-density arrangement of the 3 buildings as they line my property, all within 5 feet of my property line. If you wish to see these photos, please call me at, I won't state his number, as there was no way to post them electronically. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. I'll close the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Rogan.
So you see the problems when you build things on your property without permits, right?
Yes.
So did you hire all the subs to build this garage yourself?
Yes.
So you had no general contractor?
No, I'm just a homeowner that builds.
Yeah.
I've worked 35 years with the city of Los Angeles, with the Department of Water and Power.
All right, so I guess my question is, none of these subs even asked for proof that you had a permit to build these things?
No, and these were costly companies that Las Vegas builds with all the time. They're not Mickey Mouse companies or go-by-day, fly-by-nights. They're all big-time companies.
Right. You know, I hate these situations, and usually we see them when someone buys a property and the previous owner had built something that wasn't in conformance with the code, didn't have the proper permits, and I feel really terrible when they come before us and ask for variances and under these similar circumstances. But you're the folks that built the building, and you should have gotten the proper permits. And if you needed a variance, you could have gone and talked to those neighbors that are opposing it, because you get 5 people who have expressed support, but 2 that have expressed opposition, including your direct neighbor, apparently. So, you know, go ahead.
Not to cut you off, the neighbor to our east, he has a casita built, and he had a variance for 5 feet, and it was approved. We didn't have a problem with it. Ours is basically 5 feet from everyone's line, except where it's 14 inches short at, being with the half acre. We have a little over half acre.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's almost shaped like a pizza as it goes back, and to square the building up, this is how they had to do it. They had to take that 14 inches that's just on our property, and the eaves are even 3 feet away from, nothing's close to the fence line. And when we asked for the I guess the variance, they said, well, it's 5 feet now. We said, okay, that's fine. Well, 14 inches.
Yeah. So I don't think that mean, the staff report says 3 feet. I didn't go back there and measure your property to make sure that it was accurate. I hate doing this, but, you know, just with the last applicant that came before us, she hadn't built anything yet. She had a proposal to build something that was into the setback area. It's a tough call for all of us that are here. So unfortunately, I'm not really in support of this evening. Is this final action, Mr. Summerfield?
Mr. Chairman, through you, yes, Councilman, or Commissioner, this is currently indicated for final action this evening unless appealed to the clerk's office.
Well, let me do this. I would like to know what my fellow commissioners feel about this. We do see these sometimes where we approve them. They're usually prior to the build, not subsequent to the build. So I just would like to hear your comments before I make a motion, actually.
Anybody? Commissioner Cherry?
I guess you have to excuse me. I don't know why I'm choking a little bit. Is the measurement from the stucco wall, or is it from the roof line? Maybe staff could answer that. Do we know? The 3 foot something?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as indicated by the applicant, if it is 14 inches, usually we do not put, like 1.6 feet or whatever. We will kind of round it down just to allow a little wiggle room there. So that is why we had put it as 3 feet, because then at 14 to 18 inches, we're looking at a foot and a half, so possibly the 2 feet off.
But is that from the stucco wall of the garage to the CMU wall?
Yes,
property line?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's,
I mean,
that's a
wanna
tough
cut
one.
nobody off.
I have to, and just what Commissioner Rogan was battling through, again, what we had with the previous application, I'm kind of sitting with staff having this right, and it's an unfortunate thing, but that's where I think I'm going to stand. I was hoping that it was from the roof line, and there could be some type of modification done, but it doesn't look that way, so that's where I stand.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Williams?
Yeah, the challenge here is it's a structure, it's a dwelling. It's not like it's not like a feature or a barbecue or something that we're looking to, that's smaller in size and shape. And the reality is the lot is a specific size. Code designates what size dwelling goes in that space, and so when you stuff, for lack of a better term, when you stuff a dwelling on a piece of property and it's that close, it makes it really hard to support it.
Well, looking at the picture, I've seen structures that were right on Tenai Way that's butted right up to the wall, and the eaves are hanging over. My wife and I and my grandson can all walk back there basically almost side by side. We understand that our neighbors in back of us probably don't like us, and we don't bother nobody. Last 4th of July, or was it the 4th before? Well, this guy, he popped he destroyed our property, basically, even before this was built.
Well, sir, I just want to interrupt you. That person's not here to respond to this, and we're just dealing with your application.
Right, and I understand that, but for him to write something like that and he's damaged our property, I think that's...
Again, we have to stick with this application.
That's another one of these things, and I understand how I can't breathe, and that's why I feel right now.
So, I mean, I hate doing this. I really do. It's really one of the toughest, because I know you spent a lot of money to put this in, but at this point, I can't support it. It's too close to the property line.
Even if I went, now, even though it's close to the property line, we've seen closer structures to fences. This is not bothering nobody. It's no building in back of our building, and it's no building on the side of ours.
So, sir, there's...
Even, what would be, what is the challenge of this? It's not bothering anyone home. Even if a fire broke out, it's further enough back to where nothing would affect it. Even if I had the stucco under the bottom of it, mash and stucco it, it still would be up to code.
Sir, the reason is because you live in a residential estates neighborhood, and that means you have larger lot sizes, but in turn, you have larger setbacks. And when people start changing the rules, asking for variances, building structures that are close to the lines, you change the character of the neighborhood. And so we're very, very concerned about that, as you saw with the last applicant. And so this structure violates the rules, and if you had only just come to us before you built it and asked for the variance, you wouldn't have spent all the money. But unfortunately, you did it after the fact, and I understand you misunderstood the rules, but the fact remains that the rules weren't followed, your structure's non-conforming, and I can't support it. With that being said, I'd make a motion to deny item number 65, VAR 78703.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Please cast your vote.
And, Mr. Chair, if I could. Can I ask, is there a time frame by which they would have to remove the structure, or is that in code?
Mr. Sommerfeld, what do we usually do in these?
It's not in code. Typically, we would give 90 days from final action. That's usually easy. Coming out of the COVID and the shutdown, I know there's some backlog on getting people who can do demo work, so if you wanted to give a little more time so that they can schedule that, I think that would not be inappropriate. Additionally, because this is final action to this evening, they will have the opportunity to appeal this decision tonight if they'd like, and so that would give them plenty of time to do their appeal and see where that goes.
So 120 days would feel appropriate then?
I think that given the status, and based on the testimony this evening, I would imagine that the applicant may wish to appeal the decision, so that gives them plenty of time to run their due process, appeal the action if they like, and then schedule somebody to do the work.
So, sir, you understand that this isn't the final option you have. You have due
Well,
process rights to
I'm
appeal.
looking at-
Hold on, I'm talking. You get a chance to bring it to City Council, and City Council can review the recommendation that we made, and they can come to their own decision and let you keep the garage. So you understand that, right? It's just yes or no question.
Would you repeat that?
You have the opportunity to appeal it, is what Mr. Sommerfeld's telling you. So you can go to City Council and have them make a decision. So they get to review this application anew, fresh set of eyes, and make a final action, a final decision. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That being said, we're giving you 120 days from, I guess, tonight, from final, is it tonight or is it from 10 days from now?
It would be 120 days from issuance of final action, so the letter will go out in the mail tomorrow.
Okay, so approximately 120 days, you'd have to have the structure torn down unless you appeal it and they come to a different decision, okay?
Thank you.
That being said, do we already vote on this? Is it?
Yes.
Okay, all
Motion
right.
carries.
Okay, so again, just to be clear for the record, so that action is final this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days. If you have any question about that, please contact the staff planner and we can walk you through how that process works.
So basically, file the appeal with the city council?
With the city clerk.
City
So
clerk.
that the city council will hear your item.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
thank you. Thanks for hearing us.
Moving on to agenda item 66, SDR 78352, for the possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 5-story, 84-unit mixed-use development, including 3,248 square feet of commercial space at 231 North 11th Street, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. Staff report, please.
Through the chair, if I may, I need to abstain from this. My company's had an interest in this for over a decade, so I will be abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed mixed-use development supports the goals of the Vision 2045 Downtown Master Plan, and staff recommends approval with conditions. Please note additional letters of support were received after publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Sure. Grant Garcia. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, Commissioners. I know that the evening is wrapping up, so I'll try to make this as brief as possible. We've been involved in this property since before 2009, and then in 2009 we had this property entitled for the same project. We ended up having to shelve the project due to the economic conditions in 2009. Then fast forward to about a year ago, we reactivated the project and started working with staff to bring this project back to life. During this time, and currently, we're also working on the sister project, also called Share Downtown. That's in the Arts District. We're wrapping up construction, going to start moving people in the next couple weeks. And since last year, we started working on Share Downtown on 11th with staff. Form-based code was introduced, and we worked diligently with staff to fall in line with form-based code. And we appreciate the approval from staff. And I'm here to help answer any questions.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none here. Mr. Scott?
No comments online, Chair.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This project is actually, it's a very beautiful project, and it's identical, I think, to the one in the Arts District. Compliance with all of the codes, and so unless there's further comments, I'm ready to make a motion.
Please do.
I'd like to make a motion for approval, subject to conditions on item SDR 78352.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
And Mr. Chairman, that item will be final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the Director's Business, item 67, text amendment 78724 for the possible action on a request to amend LVMC Title 19.08 and 19.12 related to the use restrictions for the PO and O zoning districts and to provide other related matters. Staff has no recommendation. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed text amendment would allow limited overnight parking of vehicles within the professional office district and to clean up and consolidate use restrictions within the descriptions of the individual professional office and office zoning districts. Staff has no recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public here wish to be heard? Seeing none. Mr. Scott?
No comments
Nothing.
online, Chair.
Turn it over to commissioners. Commissioner Chair.
Through the chair, a question for staff. It seems like this is going to help corridors like Maryland Parkway and Decatur and certain parts of Charleston and help clean things up a little bit. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, through you, if I might, so that's absolutely the purpose here. We've had a number of rezone requests in some of those corridors where we've seen the PR conversion, where the corridor is not actually ready to go to that next higher level. This will afford those businesses the ability to be able to do limited parking overnight, so they're not creating a real issue for the neighborhoods they abut, but it provides some relief where previously we've seen a number of requests to upzone the properties in cases where it's really not appropriate at this time to do that.
Yeah, okay. And I think we're going to see a lot of changes, in, especially that Maryland corridor. I think that's coming. Commissioner Williams?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. When we say limited, we're really talking about smaller business trucks, runner trucks, right? Nothing heavy duty here?
Correct. These are like the pool cleaning company that we had today. Specifically, the impetus behind this was a small exterminating company where they have a couple trucks. They're trying to use a site over on Eastern. The rezone request would have allowed a whole bunch of stuff that's really maybe not appropriate right next to a residential, but to be able to store a couple trucks overnight is pretty innocuous in that area. So that's the intent here, not heavy-duty equipment.
Okay, thank you. I don't have heartache with that. Thank you.
I thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, do we have to entertain a motion for this? Okay,
Through the
I'll
chair.
entertain a motion.
Happy to make a motion. Item number 67, TXT 78724, a motion for approval.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries. Okay, moving on to citizen participation, the last public comment. Anybody wish to make any public comment? Seeing none here in the audience. Anything from council?
Nothing online, Chair.
All right.
I'd like to say
Congratulations.
something.
Mr. Scott.
You've got some
Oh,
public comments.
there you go.
I just want to thank Mr. Scott for being part of the Planning Commission for 19 and a half years. And we're congratulating you for moving on to city attorney, hopefully, within the next few weeks. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate
Commissioner
that.
Tatar?
Yes, I'll like to mimic what you said. You know, you have been such a pleasure to work with, you really have. I mean, you've taken this homeowner and explained things to her that I did not understand before. So thank you very much, and congratulations. And also, happy birthday, Lou.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Happy birthday, and don't forget about us. Come back now and then.
I'll still be around. Don't worry about it.
You know where I stand. Congratulations, buddy. Anybody else? Commissioner Cherry?
Oh, congratulations. Good to be with you. I have one technical question, though. If I dance at every meeting, would City Hall have to get a nightclub license?
Don't do that.
None?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
City Hall is technically a grandfathered restricted, or non-restricted gaming location, and so we can have a tavern and a nightclub and all that stuff here if we like.
Oscar would love that.
Just a congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Tata?
Congratulations, Mr. Scott, and happy birthday,
Thank you.
Chairman DeSalvio.
Thank you very much. All right,
Mr. Chair,
seeing
if I could
none,
just say one thing?
go for it.
I just want to thank you all for all the support you've given me, especially on my bid to become city attorney. So the ceremony to ratify me as city attorney will happen on June 17th at 9 a.m., so I invite you all to come down. But, you know, over the last 19 and a half years, I can't imagine how many meetings I've attended. You know, I think our latest has been 4:40 a.m. Probably our earliest has been probably 6:30. But it's been a really enjoyable adventure, advising you and the dozens of other planning commissioners I've advised over those 19 and a half years. And so, not to embarrass him, but Jim Lewis is sitting out in the audience. He'll be assuming a part of the role, as well as Seth Floyd. They'll be assuming the role as the primary advisors for the planning commission. I'll still do the city council meetings, but they'll be handling you guys on a more consistent basis. But I just want to say thank you all for 19 enjoyable years, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. With that said, meeting adjourned.